Welcome to episode 44 of Downunder The Ring. I'm your host this week, Phid McAwesome. Sadly, this week the Warship is very busy. He's busy with day job stuff and his training, and because he's training for some super secret thing he's working on at the moment. But luckily I get to hang out with another mate today, and we've got stepping in or tagging in the hot tag with for Warship. We've got Steve Willis.
How we going?
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, bro. How's your week been?
Busy. It's kind of a busy time in the weird and wonderful world of disability support because everyone's heading into Christmas and
Yeah, it would be an interesting time of year for you.
yeah, because you're sort of helping people sort of do their day-to-day life, but they're now in their home with all their extended family. So it's just a very, very crowded place to be
Mate,
to try and help someone get up out of a wheelchair. So,
mate, that would be
yeah.
We've got work stress at the moment because we've got like 10 days before we fly out to New Zealand for 3 weeks. So
Nice.
We're trying to squeeze as much work in as possible before we fly out, because we've got a couple of things we've got to do when we get in, and then we'll still be working the entire time we're over there as well. So, but trying to get shit done before the end of the year, it's crazy.
Yep. It's like that every year. Every job I've ever had is always Christmas.
Yeah.
Get it all done.
It's like we forget it happens every year and we just
no. The most locked in holiday of the year, it always sneaks up on you. It's the weirdest thing.
100%. And in my industry, it's like the craziest, busiest time of year as well, because all of our clients are trying to sell Black Friday sales and trying to get Christmas sales in, and we're in the build up to New Year's, and it's just insane. Anyway, we're not here to talk about our personal lives. We're here to talk about some graps, talk about some pro wrestling.
Yes.
And what a week of pro wrestling it's been.
Yeah, it's been pretty big, man. I guess it's weird to think like the Royal Rumble was always like everyone's the start of the road to WrestleMania, but it's kind of now. It's kind of Survivor Series, because like this is where shit starts to take shape.
I'm glad you said it, because I've been saying that literally all year on this podcast. Is Survivor Series is the start of the road to WrestleMania. It's where you start getting those first beats of the story starting to kick in. And we saw that again this year too. We saw CM Punk straight up saying on the SmackDown before Survivor Series that he's not doing this for Roman. He's not doing it for the Usos. He's doing it to help his mate Paul. But more importantly, he owes him a favor.
That's it. And what could possibly happen? And this is the thing. I honestly don't know where it's going to go. And that's the exciting bit.
Yeah.
Like, because Punk could ask for anything. And
100%.
You know,
I think we all know where this is heading, though.
For sure. Yeah. Like, it's been no secret that like the Punk bucket list, the Punkit list,
the Punkit list,
like main eventing WrestleMania.
I think that's the only thing left on his list, right?
It's the main event now.
He's held every world championship.
Yeah, he's done everything there is to do except this one thing, and you know, even before he took his big hiatus, that was still the number one thing left to do. So he's got to do it.
And look, right up the front of Raw this week, he was the first one out at the start of Raw, and it's exactly what he was insinuating, right? He was pointing up where the sign usually is at Royal Rumble, and making it pretty clear that that's what the intention is.
Yeah.
He didn't outright say it, though, which I find interesting.
Well, no, but I guess to that point, there's only so much Paul Heyman can do to get Punk into the main event. I mean, there are perks to being a Paul Heyman guy.
Yes.
As we saw at Survivor Series, you know, for Roman Reigns, the most recent big Paul Heyman guy. Like, I would have loved for Paul Heyman to come out on that SmackDown and say, my tribal chief, there comes a time in every Paul Heyman guy's life when the one thing he needs more than anything else is another Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and Punk coming out to that, and it makes sense. You know, Punk's not doing it out of any kind of loyalty to Roman like everyone else is. He's doing it because he's a Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah. I would argue, though, the one thing that every Paul Heyman guy has to do to be successful is get out from under the wing of Paul Heyman.
True.
Like
True.
everybody who's made it big, they've been brought in by Paul, they've been mentored by Paul, had him as a manager or whatever at the same time, and they get up there. But once they leave Paul and go out on their own, it's when they do big things.
Yeah.
Like Brock Lesnar was the same. Everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, Paul Heyman's obviously his biggest strength is his mic skills.
Yep.
And
backstage, that mind of his.
yes, absolutely. But you look at Roman, who since coming back as the tribal chief, obviously does not need a mouthpiece. Punk never needed a mouthpiece.
No.
Brock is a different story, but we've seen like
And saying that we saw
promos.
Cowboy Brock was amazing.
That guy could talk. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was a fun-loving guy, and he liked having fun, and he wasn't trying to be a badass. I would argue he came across as more scary when he was making jokes and having fun and walking around with a boom box, Money in the Bank.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, what's he gonna do?
He's more unpredictable.
He might spare me, he might not, and so that's not knowing is kind of more threatening.
And this is what's been awesome about the Triple H era is. Under the Triple H era, I feel like the lead up to WrestleMania the last 2 years has been so unpredictable.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's really what made it great. Because, for so long we were used to, what's John Cena going to do to get himself into prime position?
Yeah, and we're about to see that from January going forward, I think.
Yeah, and to a point, but that, I guess it might be a different set of circumstances because it's pre-announced as a retirement tour as such. So we know he's going to do something big. Like there's a high likelihood he could either, get that record-breaking 10th title win, or the main storyline of this whole tour being the build-up to that, or will they, won't they?
Yeah.
But that's going to be the central sort of focal point of the story, in my opinion.
He's actually going to be on Saturday night's main event as well, so that's going to be interesting.
Oh, that could be cool. Yeah, maybe he'll call his shot.
Yeah, he's hoping.
It's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, so what did you think of the match with the men's War Games match during Survivor Series?
I thought it was great. I saw it as the story was there from the jump. It's, Solo's bloodline with blind loyalty to Solo in a similar way to what the OG bloodline had back then.
Yeah.
It was all, central to Roman, and now it's all central to Solo. But the point being made on commentary as well, that they're that they're presenting it as a group of individuals with that are seen as equals. It's not all, subordinates to a leader.
Yeah, so I actually loved right at the start of this match, from the moment those entrances started, and the subtlety of having every member of Roman's bloodline come out to their own music and come out to their own entrance. I thought it was fascinating that Jay was the last to enter.
Was the first one in the cage? Yeah.
No, he was. Yeah, he was the last one into the arena.
Yeah.
Roman came out before Jay, which that says a lot in my mind. But then you've got Solo, who came out with his entire squad unified. And they were definitely telling a strong story right from the jump of, this is a team that's unified. They're one unit. They're working together. Then you've got this other team of individuals who can they, can't they.
Sort of a team of champions versus a champion team.
Exactly. That's a brilliant way of putting it.
Yeah. I watch a lot of sports movies. I don't know. But yeah, that was an interesting point. But normal, because I would be more used to seeing that from the opposite side, where the team of champions would be the babyfaces, and the champion team, no, other way around.
Yeah.
The champion team would be the babyfaces, and the sort of patchwork group of top guys would normally be the heels.
Yeah.
So seeing that switch around was interesting, and I think it worked. It definitely worked.
Oh, it definitely worked. And I loved the storyline that they told throughout that entire match of Roman and Punk
Yeah.
Like Roman and Punk, the moment they were in that cage together, were not going to work well together. Roman wouldn't let Punk leave when it was his turn, so Punk got him back by running out before Roman was going to enter. And then when they got in the ring initially, there was conflicts in the ring, only for Punk to literally save Roman.
Yeah. That was a good, because it shows willingness to put personal ego aside.
Yes.
Which for both of them is huge. You know, they both had spots where they saved each other.
Exactly. And they're both egomaniacs, right?
Yeah. Notorious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and that made it cool, because that was sort of a hope spot within a hope spot, because it's like, oh, they can get along. All right. Now they might even possibly win this thing.
Yeah.
So, and it worked out the way it worked out. So, yeah, I thought it was really cool.
I did feel like the match fell flat at the end. And I don't know, and I have no answer for this. I was talking to another content creator this week, and I said to him, I can't put my finger on what I was expecting as the ending. But for some reason, that ending, Solo getting the shit kicked out of him and being pinned, and then it was just over. I don't know. Maybe it's even just the whole model of war games that you've got this big build up, and then it just ends.
Yeah, like I don't think they would have been like trying to put sympathy on Solo by having him take everyone's moves, like, and just. But at the same time, it's like that didn't have to be like that to put Solo down.
Yeah.
You know, there's been no build up to show that it takes 4 or 5. It doesn't take a double super kick and a haluva kick and a GTS and a spear to put Solo away.
Exactly.
But they did it anyway? Like, okay, and that was a choice that was made?
And it was similar to the end of War Games last year as well. They did the same thing where one person just got the crap kicked out of them until the end. And it was unnecessary.
Yeah. So, I guess the big question mark coming out of it, for me at least, was where does The Rock fit into this? Because I'd always picked, like, from the start of the year, I thought, okay, well, Rock's going to come back at Survivor Series, because once it was clear that they were sort of making a bloodline versus bloodline, it's like, okay, well, where does it, you know, we've got 2 tribal chiefs and a high chief, and we don't know what side they're all on. So that's still the big question to be answered. I'm sure it will come, you know,
I wouldn't mind picking, we'll get a, if Rock doesn't come back at Saturday night's main event, it will be Netflix episode 1.
That makes sense. Yeah, 100%.
Because they're going to want to pop a big rating on Netflix on that first night.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. But even then, like, in terms of answering the question of where does The Rock lie, they don't even necessarily have to do it there. No. They could wait till the Rumble for that. Yeah, I mean, those are all options that they have. And
because I mean, what do we got from January? It's 4 months until Mania. Yeah. January, February, March, April, May. I think May this year.
Is it early May? Is it a late April or an early May?
I think it's an early May this year. But yeah, so essentially 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So they've got all the time in the world to answer the questions.
And they've pulled together stories in 2 weeks before a Mania. So yeah. I don't think that's Triple H's desired situation, but look, we know it can be done. Just to swing it back to Raw, because I feel like this is where all the meat is on this week's sort of talking points at the moment. We did touch on Punk. He had his situation. Now, I just wanted to touch on this. We had Punk give his promo only to be interrupted by Seth Rollins. One thing that I am loving with both CM Punk and Seth Rollins, literally every time one of them are doing a promo and the other guy's music hits, the absolute shit-eating disdain look on each other's face when they hear it. It's just like, motherfucker.
Yeah, and you could just about see like where he's pulled the mic away from his face.
Yeah.
Just enough so the mic didn't pick up this motherfucker.
Yeah, and the thing is, Seth does it as well whenever Punk's music hits and interrupts him.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's like they're playing... I don't know if these two genuinely hate each other.
And that's the joy of it.
100%.
That's the joy of it.
the way that they're portraying this, I would absolutely believe it. I mean, look, we all saw the things Seth said about Punk when he was still at AEW, so
Yeah. Yeah, but even then, there's still a
who
bit of
knows?
what's real and what's not.
Exactly,
And that's
right?
great.
That fight that they had, brilliant. It felt
Yes.
unscripted. It was probably scripted, but it did not feel scripted. I would actually say, to be honest, everything from Seth coming out up until the end of this other segment with Sammy, the whole thing felt loose. But it felt loose in a realistic way, as opposed to, you know how sometimes you'll see a promo and it feels too loose and it feels like they're fumbling over their words and just feels like, oh shit, this guy just does a shit promo.
Yeah.
It felt watching this like it was loose. There was moments where they were fumbling, but it felt like it was real, like they were getting frustrated and angry. And it was one of the best segments I've seen in a long time. This opening to Raw was solid. And I'll say that the production of it, going Punk into Punk and Seth into Seth and Sammy in one take, it was genius. It was brilliant booking.
Yeah, that was very, very well done. I thought you can see now that the creative handcuffs are off for at least all of the top talent. Like we saw with Punk and Drew, like they definitely got to express their own creativity in
Absolutely.
the segments that they had. I'm sure it's not 100% creative control of just being handed over, but I can tell that you can tell just by watching it that they got to make decisions themselves and they got to shape
Absolutely.
it themselves.
That storyline in particular felt like, here's the end game. Here's the bullet points. Go have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would 100% believe that would be what happened backstage.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's, no sort of awkward clunkiness, no Vince-isms. It's just, letting the guys tell the story that they know how to tell. And exactly. I think that was the case with Punk, Drew, and Seth in all aspects of that sort of three-way battle that was going on, and now it's just Punk and Seth. And Sammy as well. Like, you can hand Sammy a microphone and don't have to tell him what to do. He knows what to do.
Yeah.
So
I would argue when he's doing what he's not allowed to do, he's better. Like that pop he got, 3 years ago when he mentioned AEW on Raw.
Yeah.
All right. You could ask me anything. You could ask me about AEW.
Yeah, and everyone's like, ooh, it's like, don't tell me that was...
There was no way Vince gave that an okay.
No. But it's a case of, I think it was back then was a case of, you can break a rule if it gets over.
100%.
So, even
as long as you can justify it when you get out the back.
Exactly. And like it's sort of was well known that Vince had a no blood rule. But in the case of, let's say, Punk and Drew in their cell match, if Vince had still been in control at that point, he would have let that slide.
Absolutely.
Because there's no way you could have done that match without blood.
Yeah, enhance the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
And going back to the amazing storytelling here, we've had Seth come out and he makes absolute sense when he's talking to Punk. Then we get Sammy coming out and first he's standing up for Punk, but then he's confronting Seth. Everybody in these three segments all made sense. And what I loved about this is they drew from history. They looped back on storylines that had some loose ends. All the points that were being made all made 100% sense. And it raises, and I love this in any storytelling format, you want to answer questions, but leave them with more questions.
Yes.
Right? Give one answer, leave two.
Mm-hmm.
Leave two questions.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it when they do that, yeah.
Absolutely. So the questions I've got coming out of this is CM Punk and Seth, clearly not over. I'm assuming this is going to be a Saturday night's main event match.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense to do it then. Like, because clearly it's not going to be a one-match deal. Like, this is clearly going to be one match of many. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess either the first... Yeah, Saturday night's main event, and then the aftermath happens on the Netflix Raw.
And because then we've got no PLEs until the Rumble in February.
Oh, is that February? this one.
Yeah, there's no January PLE this year.
Right, we're in a bit of a stretch, at least by WWE standards. Yeah.
Which, look, as somebody that watches all these shows to do this podcast, having a break is going to be nice.
Yeah, like even just as someone that listens to and watches a lot of podcasts, like even I'm like, we got a bit of a wrestling overload right now. Like, just for me, like I've got SmackDown, Raw, Dynamite, and Collision. Just those 4 takes up a fair bit of my time.
Yeah, well, at the moment, what's that? It's 2 hours for each of the WWE shows.
Yep.
2 hours for Dynamite. Oh, and 2 hours for Collision. So there's 6 hours there. I also watch NXT now, which I never used to.
Yep.
So you can check another couple of hours on that. So it's 8 hours.
Because Ethan Page turned that show around, didn't he?
Mate, amazing, right?
Yeah.
I started watching when Ethan Page went over because I'm a big fan of Ethan when he was in AEW.
He's great. Yeah.
He's going to be a huge star. His pop. I hope he's in the Rumble this year.
He should be, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe Hendry are my locked-in surprise Royal Rumble pops.
Yeah. Are NXT talents still considered surprise pops in the Rumble?
I'm not really surprised. Yeah. It's more...
But, like, Ethan Page needs to be there. I'd like to... Yeah, Ethan Page, Trick Williams.
Trick is a common one, mate, in the Rumble now, though.
Yeah, but he should be there. Especially, like, for the long history he had with Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, and Hendry for the TNA pop.
Yeah. Since we're on the topic of surprises for the Rumble, do you think Big E is in? Because if there was ever a perfect time to do it...
Look, I was going to say, a new day is not always a good day, right? And that's what we got this week.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. And as heartbreaking as it was, and as brutal as it was at Big E's end, it just makes me think, is there a bit of retribution coming for those two?
Yeah. Look, I've been saying for ages, I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
Don't want to push the guy to come back.
That's just me, the optimistic fan.
100%. 100%. And I would love for him to come back. And to me, the end game of this story, having it be he comes back and reminds him about the power of positivity.
Yep. That story writes itself in the best possible way.
Exactly. I mean, look, you could have it in the Rumble where you've got...
Have those two dominate early.
Well, I would say you have Kofi and Woods in there. They're in the ring together. Maybe they even start conflicting with each other again in the Rumble. And then, it's a new day. Yes, it is.
Yep. And
actually, no, it should be the... Oh.
Yep. Could he do it for himself?
100%. He should have done it for himself this week. Genuinely, I was disappointed he didn't get that entrance this week.
Clap for your world-famous one-time champ and feel the power!
Exactly.
Yeah, that would totally work.
That should have been the entrance this week. I think it would have got a bigger pop than his solo music, which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to do something about that, though.
But yeah, and having him come out and maybe he's the one that's like, oh my God, we needed you.
Yeah, because I mean, storyline-wise, it works either way. Because I mean, if he's legit never coming back because of this injury,
it means the New Day can move on.
Yeah, but if it goes the other way and he can get cleared and he is coming back, then there's the perfect foil to work against him when he comes back.
Exactly. And this week was an interesting one. This whole segment, I actually only tuned into Raw this week to watch it live for the New Day.
Yeah.
Because I knew
smacked it right in the middle.
And I knew it was going to be good, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all knew something was happening. We all knew E was going to be there. It's the 10-year anniversary. Are these guys going to turn on each other? I did not expect them to turn on E.
Yeah, they would end up on the same page, just not on a page anyone expected them to be on.
I didn't see it coming. And, mate, I've been a fan of Kofi Kingston's for a long time. Xavier Woods, I've been a fan of his. But at the same time, I would have been okay with him turning heel.
Yeah.
I did not see any way you could ever make me hate Kofi Kingston. I sort of put him in the same vein as Rey Mysterio.
Yeah. Babyface for life.
The eternal babyface.
Yeah.
And the only way that they could have done this is exactly what they did. Is they didn't just turn on E. They were mean to E. Like, it was childhood bully mean. And it was unrelenting. And watching
you broke your neck, so what? Like, what just came out of your mouth, bro?
Like, this was such a big promo that they were allowed to invoke the name of Edge.
Yeah.
And Daniel Bryan.
And
it was, there was such an effective promo, and I genuinely was angry afterwards. I know it's all a work.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not be, given how invested the entire audience is in the New Day after 10 years?
10 years. Like, we hated them for a year.
Yeah. Because the gimmick was cheesy as shit when it first started. But then it grew on us.
But the funny thing is it grew on us as they leaned into the cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, like, remember, were you at the house show in Sydney where Xavier Woods' foot fell off?
Yes. I actually interviewed him earlier that day as well.
Yeah. And even...
I actually tweeted this week that somewhere on one of my drives, I still have that audio of the interview with Xavier Woods and the interview I did with Kofi beforehand, and it's never been released. So I was thinking I might put it out. If I can track it down, I'm going to put it out in our audio feed. Yeah,
because I remember there was a friend of ours that used to work at 2K.
Yeah.
And
I was with him.
Yeah, and because I remember I was talking to him shortly after that, and he was so pumped because he was originally going to just be talking to Kofi and Woods, and then AJ Styles just showed up, and he was the cover star for that year's 2K game.
Yeah,
and it was just this massive moment, like, for this guy and for his work and everything. And I just remember it was such a huge trip, even though it was just a house show tour, run-of-the-mill ones that WWE do fairly often in Australia, and just ended up being this huge thing, and then ends with this huge letdown when we find out that Woods is injured, and he ended up getting put on the shelf for months.
To add to that story, is me and our friend were supposed to be taking Woods out for drinks afterwards at a local gaming bar here in Sydney.
No.
We got a text from Woods saying, don't think I'm going to make it to the drinks after this.
He's in the hospital. Foot fell off. No, was it? Achilles? It was Achilles tear.
Busted his Achilles.
That was just a wild weekend, I think. Just so many ups and downs in such a short space of time.
And here's the other thing, it was my birthday that day.
Yes, it would have been too.
Yeah. Yep. It was a wild day.
So many ups and downs.
But yeah, so what I will say about this as well, right? They've managed to make me turn against Kofi, which I think this is the only way they could have ever made me turn against Kofi.
At the expense of Big E, yeah.
Yeah, like...
the most universally loved wrestler. Like,
yeah. He's literally the only guy I've never heard anyone have a bad word about.
No, exactly, yeah. And like going back to the stories of like Brody Lee's passing, and you find out what a genuinely absolute fucking saint of a man Big E is, and it's like they turned on that guy.
Yeah.
Well, fuck them.
Yeah. And they even turned on his girlfriend, Mia Yim's sister.
Have you seen the tweets?
Mate, I've been seeing the tweets.
About bland seasoning, which is for certain people, certain groups of people, that is a high crime.
Yeah.
And yeah, off they go on Twitter. Yeah. That's all going to come around so much.
I will say this about... We'll see if this makes the final edit. One of the funniest things I've seen on Twitter today, because as we're recording this, it's the day after the turn. The black internet wrestling community on Twitter begging Brock Lesnar to come back.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
No, it's just because he's been the enemy of the black internet wrestling community for years, ever since he stripped Kofi.
Yeah, he pumped the brakes on Kofi Mania. Yeah. So,
and now all of a sudden they're just like, it's time to come back, bro.
We need the beast.
Yeah.
We desperately need a not guilty verdict right now.
Yeah.
Get him back here.
So what I will say is, I think brilliant writing, kudos to the team at WWE behind the scenes for coming up with this idea, but also kudos to Woods and he and Kofi for doing this, because you managed to make me hate you. Yep. Well done.
That's the emotional ride that we go on. And yeah, no one saw it coming, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah. And the other thing that other note I've got here from Raw this week, Drew's back.
Yes.
Apparently earlier than anticipated.
Yeah, I didn't see them bringing Punk and Drew back to Raw on the same episode.
No.
Because you'd think they'd space it out by at least a couple of weeks, but no complaints. I mean...
Well, apparently it was purely because Bronson's out. He broke his foot during War Games.
On that big splash off the cage, yeah.
Yeah. So he broke his foot and they needed someone back in that spot, which sucks for Bronson, man, because out of all the Aussies, he's one of the guys who I think really, really has been waiting a long time for his shot at the top of the card.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, I think the last wrestling show we both attended would have been Chamber in Perth.
Correct.
And I believe Bronson was meant to be challenging Seth for the title on that show, but he had to go. He was on paternity leave.
Yeah, he had a baby that week.
So this is sort of the make good on that, I guess, where he had this feud with Seth to make up for that, and he was just getting some good momentum going, and then gets the spot at War Games and injury.
And look, I was kind of hoping that he'd continue to be involved in the bloodline because I think he's a perfect fit. I love the fact that Solo's bloodline is the misfit Polynesians.
Yeah,
they're not all family.
No, but they'll all ride in the same Tarago for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love that reference. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing because like, if you're Polynesian and a badass, then okay, you qualify. Welcome to the family.
Absolutely. One thing is talking about Polynesian wrestlers in WWE is one match that I didn't even put on my notes, but I do want to talk about very quickly. Is we've got the Women's Intercontinental happening at the moment, the tournament
with your mate.
We've got Dakota Kai who won this week. I'm going to call it. Normally, my calls when it comes to Dakota are completely wrong. I reckon we get Kyrie and Dakota in the final.
That would be sick.
That would be
sick.
That's the end of damage control.
Yeah. I mean, they've had a great run.
Have they? They've had a run.
They've had a long run.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, that would be cool to see. I mean, it was interesting in their triple threat because sort of Dakota had a long history of just getting victimized by Shayna Baszler. And so, for that reason, like, I saw Shayna Baszler running the board on this tournament and winning the whole thing. So it was sort of the surprise packet for, oh shit, she lost in the first round, and Dakota Kai, awesome. Yeah, and sort of made herself a contender.
Who ate the pin on there?
Katana Chance.
Yeah, and that was always going to be the case because I remember seeing that match line up and going, yeah, Chance is taking the pin. Yeah, I couldn't remember if she did eat the pin, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I think because she would have just hit a big move on Shayna, which got Shayna out of the ring. Yeah, right at the end there. So yeah, that's awesome, and I'd love to see Dakota Kai take it out. I mean,
absolutely. This is the year of ANZ and wrestling, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Last AEW pay-per-view was a clean sweep for Kiwis and Aussies.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to see more of it, man.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Hey, while we're talking about Kiwis and Aussies, this is a perfect time for us to jump into an interview. Earlier this week, we were invited to Brisbane by AEW to meet up with Buddy Matthews to have a talk to him about the upcoming pay-per-view in Brisbane. Firstly, before we jump into it, I want to give a mad shout-out to King Deej on Twitter. DJ, dude, massive thanks to him. I did not have the time to be able to fly to Brisbane to conduct this interview. He lives in Brisbane. He put his hand up. He said, bro, I'll do this for you. So huge shout out to him. Big thanks. And we'll cross over now and see what he had to say to Buddy Matthews.
All right, I'm here on behalf of Downunder The Ring with Buddy Matthews. First of all, thank you for being here. Awesome to have you back on home soil. I've got a couple of questions for you today. There's a few crowd-sourced from the podcast that they do as well. So there's a few in here that are fan questions, we'll say.
Okay.
First one is, what's it been like to have your career intertwined with Malachi Black over the last few years? Even for your matches 5-10 years ago, in other territories, how'd you meet and what formed your connection?
I guess what formed our connection was that he beat me 3 times And then if you look at my career, it all stemmed from that. So it was, did the cruiserweight stuff and it became very successful at that, got called to SmackDown. And then it wasn't until I got drafted to Raw under Paul Heyman where we ended up meeting. He beat me 3 times in a row, which then obviously caused my mental breakdown.
Yep.
Which then made me sit ringside at Raw for about an hour and a half while everything was going on. And then I joined Seth, which then I became a disciple. And then we went our separate ways for a while, and here we are. Bitter enemies become besties, I guess is what I say.
And
so
work well together too. So
yeah, when you break it all down, we have a very unique. What's the word I'm looking for? We're just very unique individuals. The way, like off screen and on screen, the way that we interact with each other and our values of professional wrestling behind the scenes line up very well.
Yeah.
So we're very detail orientated performers. We like that storytelling aspect. So the fact that we are able to communicate that and collaborate with that, I feel like that creates the dynamic that is then seen in the House of Black.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the long-winded part.
Yeah. So I like long-winded. It makes
Okay,
it easier. This is a bit of a simpler one. Okay. Well, actually, it's simpler to ask, but it's probably a lot harder for you because you know this territory very well.
Okay.
Aussie wrestling state of origin. However, we're not just going Queensland and New South Wales. We're going Queensland, New South Wales, Northern Territory, Victoria. Every state.
Okay.
If you had to assume and pick a team that would win based on where those performers are located. Melbourne? Yeah, that was an easy one for you, wasn't it?
Well, I just feel like when you look at, all right, let's.
Adelaide has got a few.
Yeah.
Adelaide's got a few.
Yeah, if you're looking at the people that have gone abroad, where they've come from, you're looking at Melbourne. You're looking at myself, Tennille.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Luke would be kind of Melbourne, but I think he's kind of South Australia too. So he's like
he's split 50-50.
Yeah, we'll say Melbourne for this thing to work on my side.
Yeah.
Then from Adelaide, you have Rhea. She's done okay. Zaria. Bronson.
Yeah.
And then Sydney has Waller. Oh, wait, we had Indy too in Melbourne.
Yeah, Indy, yep.
You guys are going to blow my mind right now. There's a lot of us.
There is. We were actually just discussing that earlier. Yeah. There's a lot of Australian talent or oceanic talent. We'll even include New Zealand in it as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of oceanic talent in wrestling at the moment, international wrestling.
Yeah.
But I would say that it'd probably come down to Adelaide versus Melbourne, right? Like Queensland, New South Wales.
I think it would have. Yeah, I don't think they're even in the. They're not even in the race.
Queensland specifically, we don't even get mentioned.
No.
We just forget Queensland.
Yeah, you got nothing there. But I think it's Melbourne and Adelaide definitely. Yeah. But I'd say Melbourne. Because you got to look at it, right? You got Rhea, who is probably the most successful,
of course,
woman of all time. But I'm one of the originators.
Yep.
I'm probably the guy that kicked open the door. So
absolutely, yeah. Look,
without me, there is none of them. So Melbourne.
That's a great way to actually segue into my next question.
Okay.
Because I was going to save this for last, but you've now helped me with this.
Yeah.
You've won a myriad of big championships in your career, right? You've won a massive one in Melbourne a few years back. I was actually there, so that was awesome. If the opportunity presents itself, what would it mean to win another one in February on home soil in Brisbane?
Ooh. Well, it depends which one.
Any that stand out? Would you prefer to go for?
So, it's tough. I was kind of asked that question earlier. So, I feel like the trio would be cool, because I do believe that we are probably the best trio on the planet when it comes to that. Our win record says that too. But I feel like what we did with the trios titles when we held them was probably the most significant that they were. And we tried to elevate it by doing the open houses and stuff like that. We tried to put our own little flair on it. But then again, like if we like that would be cool to do here. But I feel like matches that people would want to see, and he may have a title then, who knows? But like I feel like me and Will is kind of like a match that people want to see.
Yeah, it's all over the social media.
Is it?
Everyone's screaming for it.
That would be cool. But then you go, I think me and Okada here would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wrestled him in New Japan, and I just feel like, you know, we were the peaks. You know, he's Japan's guy, and I was like Australia's guy. So like, let's do that. That would be cool. Okada versus Buddy in Australia would be pretty cool on paper, I think.
Absolutely. We'd absolutely be here for that. So let's make that happen.
Maybe.
Let's make that happen.
I don't make the rules. I don't,
This one comes from me specifically, all right? Because now I've followed you for a long time. First of all, Civil Regime, big fan. I've actually just ordered the new set.
Yeah? Code Buddy?
So yes, absolutely. Absolutely post.
It is dope.
You're a big fella, all right? You're in the gym all the time. You got off the flight here straight into a gym.
I did, yeah.
What is your go-to personal best, if you're going for it, gym song?
Oh, that's a great question. So, probably Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's up there. But I have been on the Work of Art, the Terrifier 3. So that's kicking. But I go through different things, man. Like I was like 2 days ago, I was listening to Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
I'm at Gold's Gym Venice and I'm listening to Machine Gun Kelly. Like,
different moods for different days.
Yeah, really, I'm all over the place. But probably Break Stuff gets me going.
Yeah.
I've actually created a playlist which I share with the wife. We've been starting to add songs to it. So, you know, a lot of them are like dope and like trapped. Like, you know, those old school songs from the early 2000s. So, yeah, it's just nostalgia to me. But, yeah, probably Break Stuff. Because that just gets you going.
Yeah, it's a great answer.
Yeah.
I saw it live a couple of years ago. And it was unreal. So,
I've never seen this live.
As someone who was like, I'll never get to see Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit live, and then I saw it. Yeah, unreal.
Jealous.
Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time,
man.
buddy. You're
Appreciate
an absolute legend.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, DJ. That was awesome. Massively appreciate once again. And we're looking forward to seeing Buddy and the rest of the AEW guys at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre in Brisbane in February 15th, which I've got to now get used to saying Brisbane Entertainment Centre because I've spent the last 4 months saying the other place. What did you think of that venue change?
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, the idea that a company's very first show in this country would be a stadium is ballsy as hell, but a little over the top with the optimism.
Mate, I've actually requested through AEW. I want 5 minutes to talk to Tony Khan. And I've legit put in an application to speak to him because I have genuine questions around the decision-making around this pay-per-view. And I don't want to be an asshole about it because for my day job, I deal with data. I know he's a data nerd, right? He owns a data analytics company. Yeah. He's a mad data nerd. I want to know what drove the decision, 1, to come to Australia, and 2, to do it in the stadium. What made him think that 55,000 people were going to fill out that stadium? Yeah,
because, I mean, it can't just be like dick measuring on a kind of like trying to compare themselves to the Chamber show in Perth.
Yeah, right. But the Chamber...
It can't be that because you think
WWE
about it...
did not sell out that stadium. Optus Stadium was...
We were both there. There were
at best 3/4.
Yeah, and that'd be optimistic too.
I'd almost say 2/3, to be honest.
Yeah, but
there's a reason why when that drone shot came up to look at the sunset at the start of the pay-per-view, it comes up and goes, tilts to the left.
Oh yeah, avoid that big block of empty seats.
Yeah.
And that was a show where we were told, well, one, we were told about the show well in advance.
Way in advance.
And we knew we were getting 2 chamber matches.
Yep.
And Rhea Ripley in the main event.
And we were getting CM Punk as well.
And yeah, we were told we were getting Punk, and they kept the TV ads kept advertising Punk, even though we knew he wasn't coming.
We knew he wasn't coming after February.
Yeah.
But the first 3 months of those ticket sales, we thought Punk was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And even then, you're not going to sell out the stadium. And no. So I will say Perth is one of the hardest cities to travel to. In Australia, it's the furthest away from every other metropolis city. It's easier for us, like on the East Coast. It's easiest to go to your place, either get up and go to Aotearoa than it is to go to Perth. So,
absolutely it is.
So yeah, like Melbourne and Sydney makes a hell of a lot more sense, but it's most likely another one of those like local tourism ventures.
Well, here's the interesting thing. It's not.
It wasn't.
So I've been looking into this, right? So, Perth was.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Perth.
Yeah. Perth
much
was
like the Impact shows in Wagga.
Yeah, so Impact was Wagga. Ballarat was one of those. The Ballarat show with
Bret Hart.
The Bret Hart situation, and there was another show I can't. There's a New Japan one that's going to be might not even be announced yet, but it's going to be happening here.
The Brisbane one.
No. It's going to be a New South Wales one.
Nice.
I might have given a scoop I wasn't supposed to give then. This AEW one is not supported by the Queensland government.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because I know New South Wales and Victoria probably would have paid for that.
For sure. Absolutely. And I think, honestly, this venue change probably is going to be good for putting AEW on a good track with the Australian fan base. Or they think, well, I wouldn't say the fan base, I'd say the wrestling community at large, given they're probably trying to bring back lapsed fans from the end of the Attitude Era. So that's why they brought out Big Show, and it's why they would have put Jericho in a prominent spot because people remember them from back then.
Absolutely.
And you think now that they're doing a smaller venue, like Brisbane Entertainment Centre makes all the sense in the world.
It's the same venue WWE run.
Yeah. So let's say if this one goes well, which given the pre-sales from the stadium show, will probably do well.
I think it will.
Let's say next year they come back.
It's going to be an amazing atmosphere in that building too.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm hoping to go. I really want to go. I'm just might not go. It just depends on other circumstances, but I think the atmosphere is going to be amazing. It will probably then justify further shows in the future. Absolutely. Whereas if the stadium show had have gone ahead and been a quarter full, they'd never come back here again.
No.
So let's say...
But the interesting thing in this decision, sorry to cut you off, is I genuinely don't think they have the viewership numbers in Australia to have ever justified that stadium. It's not an easy brand to watch here. If you want to watch it on delay, it's on ESPN, but who has ESPN these days? No. If you want to watch it online, the only streamer to watch it on is Fight, and I don't know how common that is in Australia.
I only got it for AEW's sake.
Yeah, but we're hardcore, right? We're hardcore wrestling fans. We will go out of our way to watch something we want to watch. I've got the TNA Plus app, right? But I guarantee you, average Joe wrestling fan who watches Raw on Monday night and gets up on Saturday morning to watch SmackDown because they work during the day on Monday to Friday, I guarantee you they're not going to go out of their way to find those shows. It's almost like AEW's show here is kind of like, do you remember the World Wrestling All-Stars stuff that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Yes.
Right? No TV show support. It was essentially an exhibition show that they toured around Australia, New Zealand, the UK and all that. And essentially that's what we're getting. It's going to be an exhibition show for most Australians who go to it because they're going to be exactly what you said. They're going to go, I know the Big Show. I know Jericho. Yeah. And they're going to be the people that probably sell the tickets.
Yeah. But so on the premise that this does well, which we presume it's gonna.
Yeah.
Let's say if they come back next year and let's say they did Dynamite and Rampage in Melbourne, then did Collision and Ring of Honor in Sydney, and that's it.
Yep.
And let's say they do
East Coast tour.
Yeah. And there's no reason they wouldn't be big successful shows.
Absolutely.
But not stadiums. They could do Rod Laver in Melbourne. They could do one of the Olympic Park venues in Sydney. And let's say they do that successfully for 3 or 4 years, then do a stadium show.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. I mean, WCW used to do that exact tour loop. Right? It was Queensland, Melbourne, Sydney. And they were in Australia for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah. And
I actually think they used to do Sydney back to back, I think. 2 weeks in a row.
I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah.
But
They never came to New Zealand, I can tell you that much, because I used to get shitty. I was a WCW kid because we used to get WCW free to air in New Zealand on just normal terrestrial TV. So that's why so many Kiwis you meet will be WCW kids.
Right. See, it was different in Australia, because what we had Raw on maybe a 3 or 4 hour delay from when it aired in the States, but then Nitro was taped and played back on Saturday nights.
Was it on free to air though?
No, that was on Galaxy Cable.
Yeah, so similar to Telstra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically, well, for what I had,
Foxtel.
because I lived outside of the capital cities, so it was Foxtel in the cities or Galaxy in the regional areas, but it was all the same programming.
Yeah, so what we used to get, funnily enough, Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro were both on Friday nights in New Zealand. One was, Raw was on a TV channel that you could only get if you had pay TV. Nitro was, like I said, it was 5 days delayed, but most of us didn't have the internet, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. So
it was on free to air, so everybody watched that.
Yeah, because like I'd say in this part of the world, the Monday Night War never really happened, because tons of people that I knew watched both Raw and Nitro every week.
Yeah.
Because they weren't on at the same time.
I absolutely would have watched both.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just didn't have access to both. What I did used to do is every month when the VHS would come into the video store of the last pay-per-view on WWE, I'd go and hire that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing.
Because we used to get the pay-per-views as well. The WCW pay-per-views would be free as well. We'd get those on a Saturday.
That's a score.
Yeah. We'd get Nitro on Friday, and if there was a pay-per-view, it'd be on Saturday night.
Yeah. No, like what we had, like if one of the friends, someone in my friend group would get a pay-per-view, and then the next person would get the next one. So, and we'd all just hang out at each other's houses and watch pay-per-views.
Yeah, so I didn't start paying for pay-per-views until after I'd left home and WCW had died, and I started watching WWF at the time, and I had a cable box at my house, and that was when I started paying for pay-per-views, and even then it was every third pay-per-view.
Yeah. We wouldn't get every single pay-per-view. It would be like just like the big ones,
four.
Starcade for WCW and whichever. Yeah, just the big four for WWE.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, dude, we're super thankful you've come in to help us out and tag in for Shippy.
That's it. I'm more than happy to be. You had substitute Betson?
Substitute Betson?
Secondary substitute Steve.
There we go. Also, huge shout out to King Deej for that awesome interview with Buddy. Really appreciate it. I am also going to give a shout out to AEW as well. I know we just sort of talked some shit about some of your booking, but look, we massively appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to be involved in helping with the build to the show in Brisbane. We're looking forward to it, and Buddy was awesome to chat to. So, and look, if you're listening, make sure you follow us all on all of our socials, at DWN Under the Ring on Twitter, at Down Under the Ring on everything else. You can follow me at Phid McAwesome on everything. Steve, where can they follow you?
You can find me on all of the platforms at Mr. Stevie Games.
And you can follow King Deej as well, at King Deej. Give him a follow because he also does a lot of interviews and stuff on his own channels with wrestlers. He goes to WrestleMania and manages to get media access every year. So make sure you check him out and follow him too. Hopefully we'll have Warship back with us next week. But until then, if you're looking for us, you can find us down under the ring.